Welcome back to the Voices of Women Summit, where in honor of International Women's Day 2026, we are raising the voices of hundreds of women so their messages can be heard. Your host for this session is Jessica Koch. Joining us from Solomon's Island, she's the creator of the Gratitude Spotlight and host of Profound Professionals featuring over 1,000 guests. She's got another amazing guest coming right up. Take it away, Jessica.
Guess what? I have Carolyn Hamilton with us today, and as if anybody out there who knows me knows, I am thrilled about this topic and this talk title, Memoir to Legacy. I believe it's a journey we all should be on. We all have traveled it, and we need to document it. Carolyn, I'm so excited to have you here today. Voices of Women needs to hear this message. So please share with us why you're so passionate about Memoir to Legacy, because I know I am.
Well, thank you, Jessica, for that lovely introduction. I have to say that I'm accidentally passionate about this. And I think that's kind of what happens in life. Things come along, and the next thing you know, it's a passion.
You got it.
And for me, what happened was I had started writing fiction and some nonfiction about 25 years ago. And I wanted to tell a bunch of funny stories about when I was a cocktail waitress at the MGM Grand in 1972, opening the hotel. And it was so crazy. I mean, it was such a crazy time. And I had all these funny stories that I entertained people with at parties and stuff. And I thought, I ought to put this in a book. And I kept throwing things in a file. 38 years later, I finally did it. So when I say I fell into it accidentally, I did.
One day at a time.
That resulted in this book, which was my first one, Coming to Las Vegas.
Is that you?
Yes.
Check you out on that
in my younger days.
Woo!
And then I got contracted by the University of Nevada to ghostwrite this book for my ex-husband, the stand-up comic, who is a legend in Las Vegas. And, one thing led to another. And then I decided, well, I've got to write this book about our relationship because it was so crazy. I didn't want to sound angry after the divorce. And so I waited a while. And my goal was to show that there's a very fine line between comedy and cruelty. And I wrote, "Help, I married a comedian." and then I started a Facebook group for memoir writers called Aspiring Memoir Writers. And this month in March, I'm celebrating 10 years with that Facebook group.
Yay!
And it has over 5,000 people in it. So, everybody has a story and they don't know. And the other day I was in Vegas, and I'm in Ecuador now, but I was in Vegas visiting friends and family. And I'm sitting at lunch with a very famous comedian, a comedy magician. And he said to me, "Gosh, I always thought you had to be famous to leave a legacy." And I said, "No, we all have experiences, stories, and of course you don't get to be a woman of a certain age and not have a few stories to tell."
That is very true. That is very true. We are all the stars of our own story. So we all are famous in our own story.
And I think the most common question I get is, who cares? Who cares about my story? Who cares about what happened to me? And I guarantee you, and I tell my memoir writers this, just if one person reads your book and learns something from your story, has an aha moment, it's all worth it. It's about sharing our experiences so we can learn from each other.
Yeah, learn something or has a laugh. Like, I love the idea of just one person reading something I leave behind and I make them laugh, because that could be good too. I imagine, though, there's a process for this. So do you have a formula or a process you help people go through to get their memoir and their legacy out there? Or
one of the things that I see online, and I've been doing this now for a number of years, and I see a lot of information out there that to me is intimidating. Because most people think, oh, I'm not a creative writer, so I can't do this. And I want to say this is basic storytelling. And it doesn't need to be complicated. The formula, if you want to call it that, is the simple storytelling formula. Once upon a time, there was this person and this thing happened, and as big challenge, and as a result of that, they did this, and from that, they learned that, and then they lived happily ever after. That's the formula.
Okay. Well,
Or substitute I for they.
Sure.
I had this experience. Here's what I learned from it. I'm a different person today. That's it.
Well, that seems simple. So where do we go from here? What's the next piece of information you can give us about this process?
There are a lot of tools on YouTube to learn. I have a whole series of books called Memoir to Legacy that starts with a book called The 5 Important Parts of a Successful Memoir and Why You Need Them. If you just want to go to YouTube and watch videos, you can find so much information on writing memoir and how to tell your story. And I like to say, just imagine that we're sitting down, Jessica, over lunch, and you're saying, oh my God, how did that happen? And we're having a glass of wine and I'm telling you my story. So I would say for somebody who's just starting out, watch YouTube videos, read memoirs. Read what other people are writing. Don't read memoirs of famous stars like Cher, as interesting as that was. But read memoirs that are maybe the story might be similar to yours, but from unknown, not famous people.
That's interesting.
And just see how they structured it and what they're saying.
Do you have a favorite?
One that comes to mind is Linda Smith, who wrote a book called Unwanted about giving birth to a mentally challenged child. And in the 70s, and they told her, oh, let this one die. You're young, you'll have more. No. And she didn't. And she went on to found a huge nonprofit organization in Las Vegas, became very successful, and her son actually lived much longer than they all said he would. It's an amazing story of how she turned this situation into something that is legendary in fundraising and foundations for challenged individuals. Her name is Linda Smith, and who's ever heard of her?
Yeah, well,
just a regular mom.
I love I'm a big sucker for documentaries and movies that are based on a true story and, things that I can see other people's life and legacy story. So those always excite me. So I just love this topic.
I have a list of about 35 movies that have been based on memoirs from people you've never heard of.
I love that.
So there's a very good possibility that if you wrote a memoir, it could be made into a movie.
Well, yeah, because, look at the movies right now, right? They're just redoing the old ones and the greats and, redoing and remaking and redoing. And that fascinates me because that just means we need more story in the world. So we definitely need your story out there in the world. So what else did you want to share with us, Carolyn?
I want to encourage anybody who's shy about this, and I get two different things. I get what are my friends and family going to think if I do this? So there's a lot of fear there. And then the second one is, what if I get sued? There's a lot of fear there. And so I really want to reassure anybody with those kinds of fears that what happened to you happened to you. The experience. It was your experience. You're telling it from your point of view. That's what I love about memoir, because it's first person point of view. This is how I saw it. Might not be how they saw it. Anne Lamott, who wrote Bird by Bird, I think, she says, if they didn't want us to write about them, they should have been nicer.
I love that. I think about that too, though. I have to tell you, Caroline, because I think about my story and I think about who it would affect if I put my story out there. And, again, it is my story and it is something I experienced, but I have 7 children and 9 grandchildren. I also wonder, what of that story do I want them to know? and worried about how their feelings will be, and what some of my experiences were, how they would affect those people that I love. So it is, I do see the challenge and in the process, but I also see the value in the process. It's so beautiful, Carolyn, what you're doing.
And I have to say this, but sometimes kids and grandkids don't care. I mean,
Right.
that's
And they
kind
may
of a
not
tough
even
thing to
read it.
say. Yeah. Yes, yes. Cork's youngest daughter said, "Oh, Dad, I don't read." Okay. The other thing I want to stress is the difference between a memoir and an autobiography, because there's some confusion on that. And a
Okay.
memoir is about a specific time in your life. An autobiography is your whole life from birth to death. And
Uh,
one of the reasons that books like, for instance, Michelle Obama's book is called a memoir is because book publishing is a business, and memoirs sell because the word memoir has this connotation that that something really, secretive is going to be revealed.
I'm
And
just,
the
yeah,
word autobiography sounds like something we had to read in high school and
and write
college
a report
that was
on.
500 pages long and then write a book report on. So
I
I
love
want to really be just so and I'll use myself as an example. I wrote Coming to Las Vegas, then I wrote about my 30, which only covered a 3-year period, and then I wrote about my 30 plus year relationship with the stand-up comedian, and then I wrote Fix My Face about my cosmetic surgery in Ecuador. So, it's just a short, fast read. And I've got 2 more things. I want to write about my 2 years in the Peace Corps and what that experience was like for us as a couple. And I think I might want to write something about all the crazy things that happened to me when I was working in the real world of Mad Men in advertising. And then I just had an idea for another one. So it doesn't have to be your whole life.
Oh, I love that. So now I could see you can do so much more than just write your life from soup to nuts. You can pull out the pieces of
Exactly.
life and tell
Exactly.
the story of that. And that's many, many, many stories. I love that. I
Mhm.
hadn't thought of it
I
that
have
way.
2 clients right now who thought they were writing one big long book, and they really have 2 books. Both of them. They have a book about growing up, an unusual experience growing up, and then about their adult careers. And the
Mm.
2 really, I mean, they could put it together in an autobiography, which was their intention, but they really have two different stories. And I have the sales and marketing gene. So what I say is if you write 2 books, you have 3 products because you have the first one, the second one, and a bundle, which is the 2 combined.
Ah, I
And
love
it's
how
much
you,
easier to write about one thing. And the
yeah.
idea of writing your whole life story
Cool.
is overwhelming for most people. So
Yes.
keep it simple.
I like that. I like that. And there might be seasons of your life where you tackle the harder memoir story.
Exactly. Oh,
And then
absolutely.
seasons in your life that you do just the fun and light and joyful, pieces that you honor in your own life. I think that's amazing and wonderful.
Yeah. Well, look at travel memoirs. I mean, that's travel books. Basically,
Mhm.
those are memoirs, but it's about a place they traveled to. So
And
everything isn't
fun.
necessarily about a dysfunctional childhood.
Well, that isn't my challenge, thank goodness. But I just I do think about all the things, and my story. So you've made me think very differently about my story, though. So I'm much more excited about incorporating. I'm doing some historical nonfiction writing, but and incorporating bits of my history and ancestry and life in it. But this is something really magical, Carolyn, you fell into. It seems.
So let me ask you this, Jessica. Up until this moment, what did you feel was the biggest thing holding you back from doing this? Your biggest challenge?
I think it was my family. I think it was, really. wanting to be cautious and careful. I did go through some major events, and I have protected my children from knowing some of this, and so now I feel more free to focus on a story, a specific part of my life, and tell a memoir story in that respect after talking with you versus, like you said, having to feel like, okay, am I telling the whole story? Am I leaving parts out? What am I doing with this? Autobiography is more what I was, I guess, thinking of,
Mhm.
but I hadn't thought about the difference between the two. So I'm super excited that I learned that.
And you don't have to use your name. When people are really fearful, I say, look, number one, don't tell anybody you're writing a book. That eliminates that. And then use a pen name, because who's going to know? What are the odds that a family member is going to read a book by Jane Smith and think that's you?
It's a very good point.
So you have the option to share your story under a different name. Jessica, you and I just met. You could have told me your name was Jane Cock, and I wouldn't know. I'd believe you.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. Well,
And then, of course, change names if you think people are. I'll tell you a funny story from my book, Coming to Las Vegas, because, as cocktail waitresses, we did some pretty crazy things. And so one of my girlfriends that I worked with there, I met, her kids were all 6 and 7 years old, and I've watched them grow up, and they know, I'm Auntie Carolyn. And so when I wrote the book, she said, use my name. I don't care. And then, when I told her I was actually going to publish it, she says, I've got grandchildren now, and we did some pretty outrageous things, and maybe you should change, I'd like you to change my name. And I said, okay, what name do you want? And she says, I always wanted to be called Ronnie. And I said, okay, great. So now you're Ronnie. And then after the book was published, she laughed and she says to me, that was so silly because my kids read your book and they knew who everybody was in the story because I changed other names as well. She says, they recognized everybody.
That's right. They knew it. They knew it. Well, this has been fun and this is important. I love the work you're doing in the world, and I love what Voices of Women brings to all of us.
Thank you.
You have a couple of great gifts. Talk to us about your free gift that everyone gets to enjoy.
I have a free PDF download. It's called 6 Key Steps to Begin to Write Your Memoir. And basically it's a workbook. Okay. So it's real simple, real easy, gives you things to think about. They can just, go to the link and
I'm going to get it. All mine.
And I'll send it.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for that. And if you're out there and you haven't picked up your VIP, you need to grab your VIP, okay? Grab your VIP tickets because Carolyn also has a VIP gift for us. So tell us about your VIP gift, Carolyn.
I do have a VIP gift, and it's a 3-video series. But I don't have a link for that.
That's all right.
I wasn't asked for a link for that.
No, they have to get their VIP ticket in order to receive it. So if you buy and upgrade your VIP ticket out there.
So I can send you that link?
You will, we'll send it to tech support. But you out there, go get your VIP ticket because we'll
work it out.
Yes, you want to watch these mini course valued at $97. The VIP gift is called Key Steps to Begin to Write Your Memoir, and a 3 video mini course. So you will get that if you have a VIP ticket. So go grab that. Also grab your free gift. And Carolyn, thank you so much. You want to give us some closing thoughts? Leave us with a final piece of inspiration?
Yes, I'm going to leave everybody with an assignment because what good is a class without homework?
Okay.
And I would say, look at your life and identify 3 totally different personal experiences where you learned something totally different, not related, that you could write about. And then that just begins with taking the first step. Start making some notes, talk into a recorder. But I'll bet you've got 3 different things. Maybe one's travel, maybe one's getting a great job, maybe one is moving to another country like I did. I'll bet you every single person out there has at least 3 different things that they could talk about.
And I think with someone
And thank you very much for this time. I really enjoyed it.
I bet with someone amazing like you guiding us through, we'll do great things. Carolyn, it's been great to have you. We're thanking Carolyn. This has been a wonderful session. I hope all of you guys out there are enjoying Voices of Women as much as I am.